Rush used to talk about it. There is a propaganda campaign done by the media networks to deflate our base. Do you agree?
100%, of course. Of course.
And
it's happening.
And so we must resist that, right? We must resist the propaganda campaign, the psychological warfare that's trying to deflate us.
So what is the propaganda campaign, the psychological warfare that Charlie Kirk and his guest are talking about there? Well, if you watch the clip, it's available at Media Matters. They're talking about polls. They literally just mean that polls are being done. The polls reflect the fact that the election has changed from a month ago. The media reports on the polls. There you go, propaganda. It's unfair. And furthermore, it's designed to demoralize the base. And think about the logic there. The idea is, a month ago, when the polls showed Trump winning over Joe Biden, conservatives were gonna vote. Now that they're narrowly trailing Harris, demoralized and they won't participate. And I know what you, a person with common sense, are thinking, well, wouldn't they actually fight harder if they thought that they needed to win? Don't we often worry about apathy if we think this thing is inevitable? Don't let common sense get involved in this. They're trying to accomplish a goal, and the goal is to destroy the faith that their audience has in the media or in the polls. And it's not just them, it's everywhere. Right-wingers are talking about unskewing the polls. Donald Trump is taking poll results and sending out press releases where he changes the numbers to be what he thinks they should be. It's all over the place. But that said, I'm in the media, so it's time to do some propaganda. New Reuters Ipsos poll finds that Harris has increased her lead over Trump, particularly with a boost from women and Hispanic voters. So she's now up 4 points. In that same poll, she was up by 1 point a month ago. Now, the lead of 1 to 4 is good. But actually, once you break it down to those demographic groups, I think it's more interesting. So she led Trump 49-36, that's 13 percentage points among both women voters and Hispanic voters. Across 4 different Reuters Ipsos polls back in July, she had a 9-point lead among women and just a 6-point lead among Hispanic voters. So she's increased her lead amongst women by almost 50%. She has slightly more than doubled the lead she has among Hispanic voters. Now, Donald Trump does still lead among some groups, including white voters in general and men, and by about the same margin as July. I guess that's not propaganda because it doesn't hurt the voters, I don't know. But anyway, his lead among voters without a college degree has gone down from 14 points last month to 7 points this month. So it has been cut in half as she increases her lead amongst both women and Hispanic voters. And all of this is very easy to understand when you think about what she is as a candidate versus Joe Biden, the enthusiasm, a very successful convention. Tim Walz has given a boost of energy to this thing. So it would, I understand why they don't want their voters to accept that Trump is not doing a good job. They are in effect doing propaganda for the Trump campaign, but this seems to be just a reflection of reality. What do you think?
Hey, don't scroll away. Come back. Because before the video continues, we just want to urge you to lend your support to TYT. You power our honest reporting. You do it at tyt.com/team, and we love you for it. So first of all, there's 2 different schools of thought on this in terms of what helps if you say you're definitely winning or if you say you're losing. So I want to come back to that because that's really important and part of what they're alluding to, but they're mangling it. Before that, though, I want to do 2 things. One, just note quickly one of the numbers John read you to give you context. Joe Biden was losing to Trump among Hispanics, which was unprecedented. A Democrat losing a national election among Hispanics has not happened in decade after decade after decade, right? So Biden was down. So that's why if you didn't know what happened to Biden, you might think, oh, a Democrat leading Trump by 13 points among Hispanics seems relatively normal. But that number was in the red before. So now that she's up by 13, that is a world of difference, So, okay, now, before I get to why they're saying this stuff, let's see if anyone has been, this issue of polling, has anybody been fair and honest? What do people say about it before? First, let's start with us. So I'm gonna go to an old clip of mine. It's the 3rd one down, guys, the producers. Let's see what we said when the Democrats were down in the polls. Let's watch. Look, numbers aren't lying. The #1 copium in politics is, oh, the polls are all wrong. It's flippant, it's what everybody says, it's not remotely true. The majority of the polls are enormously accurate. You just don't know politics if you keep saying the polls are wrong. Every once in a while, an odd poll will be off, there'll be an outlier, but the aggregate of the polls are totally correct. Every losing candidate says, the polls are wrong. That's what Romney said, that's what Trump said. And so, and that's now what Biden is saying. It's the constellation of all losers that the polls are wrong. We said that when the Democrats were losing and they were blaming the polls. So now you can see, because every other show, either the Democrats are 100% right or the Republicans are 100% right. And if the Democrats are losing and the polls say they're losing, the polls are wrong. And now the Republicans are doing it. In fact, let's listen to Trump himself talk about this earlier when he was up in the polls.
You know they do that straw poll, right? Now, if it's bad, I say it's fake. If it's good, I say that's the most accurate poll perhaps ever taken. You know, the polls are all rigged. Of course, lately they haven't been rigged because I'm winning by so much, I don't want to say it. Disregard that statement. I love the polls very much. We're beating him by so much.
Okay, so number one, there you have it. Number two, so Charlie Kirk, were the polls rigged earlier on behalf of Donald Trump? Because your idea is all the polls are rigged and it's all propaganda. So were you guys rigging the polls when he was winning? It's a fair question.
I just think it's funny that Charlie Kirk is whining about, psychological warfare and why is Trump down in the polls when he is tasked with getting, young people and college age people to come out to the Republican Party by, I guess now running on a ticket of eliminating sex for recreation, right? Absolutely not. It's purely sex for procreation. Everyone's gonna have their periods tracked by Donald Trump to get your free IVF. What could be more of a precursor to a Handmaid's Tale than that? Like, it's just amazing to me that their youth outreach is like having kind of a hard time in this incredibly religiously conservative zealotry, like propped up by people who have the personality of erasers, and also in Charlie Kirk's case, looks like an eraser. Like I feel for him. So of course he's got nothing except to call it psychological warfare. And at this point, you're just like, are you really not gonna try? Because say what you will about Democrats, when they were down in the polls and everyone and their mother was like, this guy is not gonna make it across the finish line, they changed it up. They switched it up, and you would only hope that the other party would, at this point it's probably not gonna happen, but I maintain that they are jealous because they would never do that to their God Emperor. And again, say what you will about Democrats, but they did a good thing, and Biden stepping down was massive. And so the fact that you're stuck with your old, deflated Mussolini, that's not our problem.
Yeah, the only final thing I wanna say is what you just saw in that clip from them is it's a side effect of audience capture. Like, I'm sure if they thought they could get away with it without losing their audience, they'd say, Trump is just the worst candidate ever. He's undercutting himself constantly. JD Vance was a terrible pick, you gotta replace him. Talk about policy, why are you focusing on these things? They would love to be able to say what they know to be true, but their audience has been trained to think that that would be the ultimate betrayal and that would be it for their career. So instead, they have to lash out at something else. Well, we're allowed to criticize the media. I guess they're the reason Trump looks like he's failing. Yeah. Isn't it nice to be able to say what you actually believe?
Yep. I've got last two comments too. It sounded like a Freudian slip there when Franny said psychological wallsfare. Okay, I kind of like that. Don't make us do another shirt. New shirt. Build the walls. And make Trump pay for it. So that's on Shop.
It is psychological Wallsfare though. They're freaking out. They cannot stand Coach Walls. Like he's just too perfect. He's too perfect of a normal person, and they have no idea how to act like humans.
All right, shoptyt.com. We also have Balls to the Walls, Big Walls Energy. We're going nuts with it. So the link's in the description box as always. Okay, but the last point that I alluded to earlier. Look, guys, there's two schools of thought in politics. One is you tell everybody that you're winning because people like to vote for winners, and then you pick up a point or two just on people that go in and go, I'm gonna vote for the winner. And if you think that's crazy, nobody does that. You're actually wrong. Some people people do that, okay? And that's such a sad psychological phenomenon, but it's true. That's why Hillary Clinton did the really stupid thing in 2016 of going, I'm winning. And she doesn't, guys, you have to understand how the real world works. They don't go to Gallup and Emerson and Monmouth College and go, I want you to change those numbers and pretend that I'm winning. That's not how they do it. No, Mika Brzezinski said after the 2016 election, whenever we said that Hillary Clinton was not, winning easily, Hillary's team would call us and yell at us. So that's how it works in the real world, where they try to affect the media and say, tell everybody we're winning. Don't ever say we're not winning. Now, the reason why I called it stupid is because the counterpoint is it makes your own side complacent and think, oh, she already won. I don't need to go and show up and vote. And that's exactly how she lost the election. So even if it was psychological warfare to intimidate the media, which is real, changing the polls is not real. That's not, it just doesn't happen, right? Other than Rasmus, which is like some weirdo outlier. I don't know what the hell they're doing with their polls. But you can tell when a poll is an outlier. It doesn't match any of the other polls. Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, so, but in between those two things, which one should you do? First of all, you shouldn't do lying because it's dumb and it's inauthentic, and eventually the voters find out in the long run, right? But the main point is, no, even if you could intimidate the media, Hillary Clinton proved that's a really bad idea. It's actually counterproductive. So if the Democrats were rigging the polls to make it seem like Kamala Harris is winning, I would tell them, no, don't do that. It'll make your side complacent. You'll lose the election. So none of it makes any logical sense. And so when I see right-wing media saying things to their audience that's so detached from reality, it's a little dispiriting because that is being pumped into millions of people's heads, and then they believe it when it isn't even close to true.
Thanks for watching the Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.